several years ago, I was riding for this mountain bike team, and so here it is. I'm in this race. I'm going down this trail, and I'm heading towards, this is the Fall Classic in Big Bear. Fall Classic is the last mountain bike race of the year of a whole series, and I've got 2 people right in front of me, 2 people I just passed that are right behind me in my group, and it's heading to this place called the Fall Line. And what they do is they basically, you're on a fire road, which is pretty easy to navigate, and then they suddenly just turn the trail and they shoot you between 2 trees, and you cut down through the forest, and you catch up the fire road down below. So it's this extremely steep, loose dirt, rocks about the size of grapefruit, very treacherous trail. And so there I am, I'm going, and this is the odd part. It's very surrealistic because the day of the race, they set up a cabana, and they're just playing Jimmy Buffett music and making margaritas and waving at you as you go by, like, this is the end, bye, you know. And so there I go. Now, I crest through the trees. So I'm going to take you back one day first before I tell you what happened. So the day prior, I rode the trail. I rode the entire trail. I scoped it out. I took everything. I took about 3 hours to do about what was going to be an hour trail. I rode up and checked out how am I going to ride this, what's my strategy here, and what's, you know, and got to the top. And then I'm really good at the cross country and uphill. I'm willing to suffer more than the next person. I'm not the best at the downhill. There are better riders that will do downhill. So I made my commitment that I was going to pass as many people as possible in my class on the uphill and just try to not get passed on the downhill. That was my goal. So come to the downhill, and I'm taking the trail, and I see they point down between these trees, and my brother told me, yeah, there's this thing called the Fall Line, and it's really an unhappy place. And so I get there, and I look, and I'm thinking, no, this can't be right. You know, like, this looks awful. And this guy comes by me and goes, yeah, this is it. Like, he could see my indecision, so there he goes. He goes down, and he was a pretty accomplished rider, and I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do this? So I kind of figured out. I looked at the trail, and I said, okay, well, the middle of the trail is all these rocks, and it's loose, and you don't have a lot of control, but the edge near the bushes, a little more packed, I can pick that spot. So that's what I did. I went down the trail. Okay, fast forward 24 hours. Now I'm riding. 2 people in front of me, 2 people behind me. I turn the corner, come around that trail. There's dust everywhere. There's like 5 people crashed on different places, and my plan is gone. Because now I'm going at speed, and I don't want the 2 guys behind me to pass me. I've made a commitment. And I don't see the bushes that I had picked to be firm ground for me. Like, everything's just torn to heck, right? So there I go. I start going down, and I'm navigating through, and I'm bouncing off rocks, and it's a struggle. I mean, your arms are getting just hammered. And as I get down towards the bottom, I see the fire road. Maybe I'm 2/3 of the way down. I see the fire road, and I make a commitment. I say, okay, I see these 2 guys, they're struggling like me, and I know the guys behind me are struggling. I think one of them ended up crashing, so that's good. I mean, it's not good, but it means I have one less person riding my tail, right? And so I make a commitment. I say, you know, very split second, but the plan I had doesn't exist anymore. It's not even an option. I need a new plan. And I notice that there's a bush and some ground right past it that's fairly smooth to the right of the whole trail. And rather than battle what I'm battling, I just make a decision. I go, I'm going to jump that bush, and I'm going to pass both those guys and land on the trail and just go. And I do. I make this commitment. I get back off. And that's one thing my brother said, because he was an expert rider at this point. He was riding for a team. We were riding for the same team, by the way. It was Team 8, right, which was cool. But I was the chimp, right? They called me the chimp. Because I'm only 5'9", everybody, including the women on the team, were all over 6 foot. The guy who founded it was 6'9". He owned Granada Hill Schwinn, a guy named John Pitch. So I was little, but they let me on. I was the token chimp because my brother was on the team for so long and had done a lot of work with it, and I helped them with their websites. So here I go. I make this commitment. I back off the brakes, and I just go. I let it go. I hit that bush. Land on the trail, I pass both those guys, and I'm gone, right? And I end up placing very well in this race. Now, why do I tell that story? Well, it's fun, right? It's a fun story. That's cool. But really, as I thought about it, and I had a different story I was telling today, and I enjoyed this, I'm going to tell a different story. And the reason I thought of it is projects are like that, right? Because when you lay out your project plan, when you start a project and you scope it, you have meetings and you lay out the Gantt chart, the holy Gantt chart. The holy Gantt chart tells you how everything's going to run. And then you get 2 weeks into it, or a month into it, and suddenly something happens. Oh, this doesn't implement right. This software doesn't really work with this. Oh, we didn't order this or couldn't get this piece up. And suddenly, it's this frantic scramble of how things have to be fixed on this project. And a lot of time becomes, how do I fix this issue? A lot of times what happens is, in traditional project management settings, and with people who become maybe overly focused on the tools or process, right, is they're unwilling to change the plan very dramatically. And the lack of willingness to change a plan is really two parts. One, how do you get everybody on board if you're going to change a plan without being crucified, right? And two, it's scary to change a plan, right? Now I can tell you something, not every time you change a plan it works out well. I shot over that bush. I could have ended up like one of the other 5 people on the crash, but I was fairly confident in my skill set. I was fairly confident what I could accomplish and what I could see making an assessment, and so I took that opportunity to make that change. When you work with a team, it's a little more challenging. You have people that might not be so willing to make that. So part of what we're going to talk about is tools that help you communicate more rapidly. Because the faster you can share information and get people on the same page, the faster decisions can be made. You can be more agile in the project. Does that make sense? So that's that's kind of our goal today, is cover some of those tools. And I have 3 that my team uses specifically. We have a lot of tools we use, but 3 that we use just over and over again. They're kind of our standard place of being. And so I'll cover them now, and then we'll go back, because I've decided also, because we have internet, I'm going to show a few things kind of live and how they work. Those 3 tools are Smartsheet, Glip, and Google Docs. Smartsheet, Glip, and Google Docs. And I'll explain why each of those comes into play. Okay? Now for us, you mentioned cloud-based, software as a service, all the fancy things. Now you hear Internet of Things, right? That's the new catch term, which is just stuff, devices on the internet. Which me and my network engineer, director, we're always like, isn't that what we've always done? Yes, there are more things, but it's still stuff on the internet, right? So it's devices that have software, that servers, they do the same thing. So don't freak out with new terms. Software, whether it's on the internet or on your desktop, it's still just software. You just have to learn some features, right? The most important thing with cloud-based software for us is that it's accessible in the places we are. So where are we today? Well, we're anywhere. We're here as much as anywhere, right? So my need for tools for my company, for my team is everywhere. We're not in an office meeting in a room. We're meeting via video. We're meeting in chat. We're meeting online. And one day I'm here. Today, my day was, I started in Camarillo this morning giving a presentation. Then we stopped by to see my mom who lives in Camarillo. And then we did some work there from her house connected to the internet. Now Judy's doing her own work. She does talent management as well in other capacities. So she's online doing some stuff about that. I'm working. We're all connected to our teams. And while I was on there, I was actually having a conversation with 2 different team members in 2 different places. One down in Orange County working on a networking project, and my sales guy up in Santa Cruz. Right? That's normal for me every day. So these tools are critical, right? I'm not going to tell this story. I tell it elsewhere. But bad information has consequences. Suffice to say, I ended up in a train tunnel with a train coming through with my daughter, my son, my second ex-wife. That's not why she's my second ex-wife. This is before we got married. She still made that awful decision. Her bad choice. And 2 dogs, right? So, and that was our bad decision because the dogs were running cray wire and we had to save them, and one of them sat on the track because it was too terrified, and my young daughter had to run in and save her dog as the train was coming. It was just a nightmare. All because I made an assumption of bad information. We saw a train come through and I said, what are the chances another train would come through? Let's go through the tunnel. Bad information has consequences. All right. This is also a critical thing that we work with clients with all the time. And this is something, because people hold on to their systems, the things that they work with, and they don't let them go very easily. And where you see it very prevalent is, I won't say it's as prevalent on the PC side, but I'm technology agnostic, okay? But Apple people are Apple people, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter. And it's just like, I'll use Linux, and I'll use Android, and I'll use iPhone. The only thing I don't like about Apple, my biggest challenge is I don't want to be tied to iTunes because it's slow and kludgy, right? So that's awful as far as I'm concerned. So I won't do that to myself. But the truth is, there's no such thing as the system, but a system is critical. There's no such thing as a system. So one of the things that I've added in is, this is one of my critical time or project management tools. This. Now I used to have a really kind of fancier one, I still have it, and it's not that I'm averse to it, but this is just a Staples, one subject notebook, right? Now why is it important to me? It's not important because it's not where I keep information, but there's something about very creative process of thinking and thought process and getting things off your head, of walking away from the computer. I love the computer, I use it, I love my phone. I'm like, my mom today said, can you get that device out of his hand? I love the access to information, it's awesome. But sometimes all that gets put away, and I go outside with a cup of coffee, and I go, what's on my brain? What's all the stuff? And I write it out. And something I already know, it's on the list somewhere, but I'm like, I just want to jot it, it's just boom, it looks like that, right? It looks like that, stuff I'm running out. Then I say, okay, now of this, let's get this into the right system on the computer. And then I get rid of it, and so it's off of mine as much as it's on mine, right? And that's a very important process. So I will recommend, as a project management tool, actually, and a life skill tool, is sometimes just a pad of paper and a pen away from your computer is the best way to get things into the computer accurately, right? Here's another truth about project management. Zombies and emails that never stop coming, okay? So, tell me if you've experienced this. This is a true story, but something like this. So you didn't experience this because I experienced this, and it was my experience. You can't have it, but you have your own, I promise. And so one day, we're working with a company down in Orange County doing a network integration project, upgrading everything for them across all their offices in California. And my director of networks sent an email and copied me and copied 8 other people on the email, 2 people from an external software company that they're using because we're building the system because they're putting in a new piece of software. We're not doing the software. And then 6 people inside that company. He sent an email, he said, hey, here's what we have ready, here's some things coming up, here's some questions. In less than an hour, I had 30 email in my inbox. Because reply all, and some of the reply alls are, yeah, sounds good. Some of the reply, I didn't need your confirmation, thank you, shut up, right? You can't say that. I mean, I might say that, but I wouldn't recommend it to most people. Because I tell all my clients ahead of time, I said, you understand that I'm a jerk. Like, okay, so and you can call me a jerk, that's cool, it doesn't mean I'll change, but understand I'm very blunt. But you'll get the truth from me, and that's really important. And so, there's all these emails. Some of them are, oh, but what about this? Some of them are, yeah, I like that, but can we do this? Now, what does my director of networks have to do? He now has to curate that. That might take him 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then he has to reply to some people. Does he reply all to some people? Which means I get more messages. I'm deleting them as fast as I can. Like, I don't care about your messages. Like, give me the final, because I just want the final, right? But he wants me in the loop. Okay. That's email communication. After that, and as that was going on, we were implementing a new piece of collaboration software. Inside my company, we don't email at all. We have killed email at our company. So you can kill zombies. We've actually have clients we brought into this. They don't email us either. They use this collaboration tool as well. Which means all our files, all our communications are shared in one place. It's basically a live discussion board as things are happening. People can email into it too. So they can, from their email, send a message to it, and it goes right into the message, and everybody on the team sees it in one place. It's archivable, searchable. It has files attached to it, links. The power of that's amazing compared to email. Because at the end of a project, you might have an entire folder or multiple folders for one project in your Outlook if you're using that or whatever, right? And going through that is painful. Well, wait, when did they say they wanted that? And what was that? And then you go through those emails. Oh no, it's not in here. Well, it's in here, and you can kind of search for it, but it's a specific term, or there was the attachment on one. Oh no, it's not the use5 attachment. How many people have experienced that? Wouldn't it be great if it went away? Okay. You can't completely get rid of email, and I'm not saying email is the worst thing in the world. Email can be an effective means of communication. But this tool that we use, I use it on my phone, just like I would email. I get messages on it, right? Everybody's on there. Our clients upload folders and files there when we have to work on stuff. So that sometimes if I'm not available, I'm in a meeting, they send something to that tool, Judy responds, or my director of network responds, or somebody, or a contractor I've hired to work on their project because he's invited responds. It's extremely powerful. So zombies and email, awful things. Yes?
Does that tool allow for communications to be controlled as to who can see it?
Yes.
So if you want to send something that only one person or a few people can see?
You can create groups of any size of your user base, right? So we have a particular structure. I have several articles on it. We use a product called Glip, but there's a product called Slack or HipChat that are very similar. They're collaboration discussions. I will tell you this, and I speak with Glip and the people who run it and their product managers frequently, okay? They are not enterprise ready, and they're not enterprise ready mostly because of their user and project management interface. The tool itself, it's awesome, works amazing, but the ability to you can definitely say, okay, here's a group and only these 2 people are in it, or here's a group and these 4 people are in it, right? So we create groups, for instance. We have when we bring on a client, we have a certain process of burning in any client. For us, the process looks something like this. They have an entry into space on our Smartsheet, which is, we'll talk about that. We create a folder in Google Drive with the client's name, and then a shared folder beneath that we then share with that client. So we have a folder that's not shared with the client. That's where we talk smack about it, right? And not really, we don't do that. And then I'm glad she laughs at the joke. Nobody else really got it. They're like, that's jerky. You shouldn't do that. That's what I always say. But and in Glip, we create a folder called private client name, public client name, right? So we have a public discussion that the client's part of. We have a private discussion. We're really not talking smack. It's like, hey, did you guys respond to them? They don't need to see that communication. Or I sent them this, but it seems like they're confused about this. Maybe you want to call them, right? That's appropriate communication that's private to the client. Or if we're talking about pricing, hey, how long is it going to be? Okay, who are we going to get to do this? Those conversations can all be in a private folder. So that's how we use it, right? That's our process for burning in the client. And so yeah, you absolutely can control that. And we'll go over that a little bit. Now here's why it's important. Interruptions are 3 times whatever time the interruption is. So if you're working intensely on a project, now I did application development for Blue Cross. A 15-minute interruption is a 45-minute interruption. Just the way it is. If you are intensely working, how many people write like long form, might spend an hour writing straight? Okay. You know what it's called to be in the zone? Like when everything disappears but your screen, right? And all you see is that, suddenly you look up and you've written 1,000 or 2,000 words. You're like, whoa, how'd that happen? It's like magical, okay? That happens. It happens for programmers. You're intensely working on a project. By the way, one of the things you'll find that we teach and we coach on is there's no such thing as multitasking. Women don't do it better than men. Nobody can multitask. We're not built that way. Our brains can focus on one piece of information at a time. Sorry. If you think you can, you're losing productivity. Your ability to focus intensely for 30 minutes on something will get you a lot more productivity than spending an hour focusing on 3 things. Email is an interruption that costs you time and money. One of the things you'll see on my email, it says, look, I may only check email twice a day. If you need to reach me, if it's an emergency, call me or text me. Because I turn off the updates on my phone, so my phone doesn't get email updates when I'm working on something. Email is not an urgent communication mechanism. People have to understand that. It's not a dialogue. People are saying, I sent you an email, why didn't you respond? I didn't look at it. Like, I'm here to respond to your emails? No, it's not my job, right? My job is to get my work done. Now, if in there you need to intercede on an emergency basis, don't use email. I might get 20 emails in 10 minutes. right? So we have to teach people, but ultimately, turning off communication mechanisms is one of the most powerful tools you can use to get much, much, much more done. Okay? Now, one of the reasons we looked at the second product, so I talked Smartsheet, the communication product we use is Glip. One of the reasons we started using it is I wanted to be available to my team or to key clients during projects, but I didn't want to be on a public chat. So, Google Hangouts, not a place for me to be. First of all, whoever was the user interface designer for Google Hangouts, right? I think it was a bunch of crack-addicted monkeys. I don't know what they've done. And I love Google. I mean, Google, but they're abysmal at being amazing. That's what I say all the time. I go, Google, you're abysmal at being amazing. Because Google Search is amazing. Google Documents are amazing, right? Google Circles, amazing concept they never followed through on, right? The idea of grouping people into circles, and it's like, okay, great, let me do something with my circles. Like, can I share a document with that group? No, I can't. I can't do anything with them. I can't communicate with them. I can't. Why do we have this? It's a really cool interface. Great, thanks for the interface. You know, like that you can do nothing with. Okay, so they did so Hangouts, normal chat in Gmail, if you remember, it showed you who was active online, who was yellow, who was not online. Google Hangouts, you go, how do you know who's online? And then you don't know if it's running on your PC as a service or is it running in the browser. And if you have it tied to your phone, suddenly your computer starts ringing. You're like, what? No, like I was logged in, right? Yeah. So we couldn't use Google Hangouts as our communication mechanism because I didn't want to be live for people that I didn't want to communicate with. If I'm working, I don't need to be on Facebook like, hey, you know, nice kitten video or something like that. Didn't have to happen because I'm trying to get work done. So it's a private chat that gives us the same benefit, but my team can reach me during the day when I'm busy working on stuff in an emergency basis. And we have rules for that communication. Sometimes they're not always adhered to, but we do have rules, right? Because interruptions are extraordinarily painful. Okay, this is important. Now, I don't do a lot of slides where I do bullet points and text. I hate them. Because you can read the slide, you don't need me. And I want you to need me, right? Because it feeds my ego, right? You know, but this is important. I say this all the time, that when we work with clients, I say, listen, your calendar is your benevolent dictator. That's where it tells you what's important during the day. Because if left to our own devices or our interest, listen, I'm sitting in my office and I've got my guitar there, and I've got something I can write, and I can take my dog for a walk too. Unless my calendar tells me, no, you can't do that. But if I put it on the calendar, hey, during this time, grab your guitar, have at it. Or if I've given myself a break time, great. I mean, schedule it in. And so I always tell people that you've got to weekly preview and review your stuff. And this works into the whole collaboration process because you should have a mechanism and way that you organize your structure and your communication with your team. And have it be something that can be public. They can see this, okay? So, and the other thing we always say is automate reminders when possible. We'll see that with Smartsheet, right? Because we use that as a project management tool. But automating reminders is really cool. I'm really annoyed with Google. Another thing they've done just recently. I was just gassed because I've been teaching people how Google can send you notifications of events coming up using SMS, using text messages. They're doing away with that service in June because they say there's more robust ways, your phone's connected. But here's why it was really valuable and a powerful tool. I can put in a reminder. I have multiple Google calendars. I have one called phone reminders. And I put in there, somebody says, hey, call me at 9 o'clock. And you can set a default reminders for that message. And I set a default reminder 20 minutes prior and 1 minute prior to that call where I put the person's name and their telephone number. Now, if you get a text message with a telephone number, what does that do for you? I can auto-dial it right away. I don't have to search for a contact, right? So, boom, I get this text message, boom, I call, and guess what people said all the time? You are the most prompt. It's not me, it's Google. Like, if you knew how not prompt I'd be if I didn't have this. So now they've done away with it, I have to find another mechanism. Pop-ups will work, but it's not quite as nice as just a text message that I could just drop in and boom, make the dialer work, right? So, anyways, but find ways to automate your calendar. I use Google because it's in the cloud. I want everything in the cloud. I don't want it in Outlook. I love Outlook. We write automation for Outlook. We automate all kinds of stuff Microsoft. But I need things in the cloud for the way we work. And that's critical. And I need things to be automated in my reminders to come to me. So that's critical for me. You have to find the system that works for you. But that's just a word about your calendar. I don't want to spend a lot of time here because I want to get to the communication tools. These are some concepts that I think are really important though. Whether it's email communication or otherwise, people communicate in a very odd way. I've been training my staff. Now, okay, I understand I'm extremely particular. So for instance, I want you to tell me what I should read in your email before I read your whole email, right? So you'll see emails from me now where I give a bulleted list. I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. Notice these things. This is what I want out of this. Like there's a question. I need some information. Then I might give the detail. Because I would get information from my director of networks. He's kind of a geeky guy, right? Because that's what they're like. And so he would write these emails that were lengthy. And in there were questions. And I'm reading through this trying to find, it was like a crossword puzzle, right? I was like, where's the question? Like, circle, I win! Like, I found 3 questions. Oh no, there were 5, go back. And I'm like, So I'd say, just tell me what you want, top load it, and then I can read everything, right? Okay, so first of all, brevity is a virtue. Begin with some stated goals. Visually spaced ideas. You ever received an email that's 4 paragraphs crammed into one? It's just a big block of text. So if I get those emails, even from clients, I will reply and say, I couldn't read this, please break up your ideas. They're like, why don't your clients fire you? I'm like, well, I'm right. Like, they understand. Like, look, I'm gonna, and even if like 2 or 3 sentences max, then a space between them. I don't mean an indent. Make it readable to me, because we track things, or we're on mobile. It just is unreadable if it, you got to give your eyes a break. So think about that, right? Then predict the questions. That's another one. So I send an email and I said, look, we're doing this meeting. What I don't want to get is this email, because this chain happens. You guys have been there. And we should have a meeting tomorrow. Yeah, you're right. What time works for you? I don't know, 10 or in the afternoon. Oh, I think I can meet, right. So I'm like, just pick up the phone. This is like, just watching it makes me crazy, right? So, no. Okay, I can meet this time or this time, set it up here, remind me here, you make this decision, don't come back to me unless there's something you need to know, and let me know where it's happening. Like, give me all that information at once, right? Because we anticipate the questions they're going to have, right? That's really critical for communication. It makes things go way faster if you do that. Have a shared library. Now this is why we use Google Drive, because it's collaborative. How many people use Google Drive? How many people have shared Google Drive with others and worked on a document live, real time, while somebody else is editing it? How many people think that's one of the most amazing technologies nobody knows about in the world?
It took us so much.
SharePoint.
Oh, you're okay. Oh, it's changed.
It's SharePoint if SharePoint was done right.
You can do that now in SharePoint.
Right, but getting SharePoint set up, listen, we've developed applications for SharePoint. Getting it set up, the time to set up, and just the simplest application is too time consuming, right? They could fix it. They could make it better. I've been complaining to Microsoft about SharePoint for 10 years, right? I'm just like, come on, you guys. Like, we talk about collaboration, and and then Google has had it for years, and I see the Microsoft commercials. To the cloud. Remember the commercials, to the cloud? And I think, yeah, know what they found out when Microsoft got to the cloud? They're like, oh, Google's been sitting here for the last 6 years, right? So Google Documents allows you to share a document in real time and have 10 people editing it and watch their cursor moving. We're going to demonstrate one of the great utilitarian methods for using Google Drive today, right? Have a shared language, a shared library. This is critical. We were doing some coaching for Bridgestone. We were showing them how to create just a document with your critical documents listed in it that somebody can be the docent for an update, so people can find those documents, because they get spread all over the world, right? They're spread all over the place and they don't have one cohesive place. So we just created a very simple shared library document that looked like this. It's a spreadsheet. We did it in Excel, then I moved them to Google Drive and they went crazy. They're like, wow, we can share stuff like live? I said, yeah, you can share stuff live. So I'm not going to talk about a simple agenda. This is just when you are in a meeting, if you want to be successful. There's pieces of communication, because I want to get to the demonstration of some of the stuff we're going to do. But these are critical pieces, though. Every week, you should have this kind of a communication mechanism with your team. Now, we do ours as a Google document, right? And this is what's important. What happened this week? just give me bullet points. If I need details, I'll call you, or we'll get more details about something, because I typically don't need X and then Y, and all right. And what happened this week? What didn't happen that was supposed to? That's one of the critical ones. What new items came in that were unexpected? Because that happens in projects. What upset the balance? How did things get moved? And then what happens next week? Right? So accountability is huge, and you have to give people teach them how to do accountability right. Because accountability is not, I'm sorry I couldn't get to it. I always tell my team, I don't really care about I'm sorry. I only care about I screwed up, or I didn't get this done, here's what I'm doing next week, or here's how I'm correcting it. I just want the prescriptive mechanism that you're going to put in place to fix it. I don't really care. I don't get everything done every week that I'm supposed to get done. I just don't. We don't, none of us do. Things come up. So great, identify it, here's what I'm doing, here's how I correct it. And now, if it's a pattern, if it's always happening, one of two things. Either there has to be another one of you, that's a resource issue, or it's a training issue, you don't have the skill set to manage it. Right? It's one of two things. Or you're lazy and you're cutting out every day at lunch and not coming back, then that's another issue, right? So we address that all differently. But also, and I kind of did this meeting overview because I said meetings should only have 3 items on the agenda and should never take more than 30 minutes. There are people that absolutely disagree. I'll give you God's honest story. I was working for Sebastian Haircare, putting in SAP. I know, ironic, Sebastian Haircare. I could buy all their product for almost nothing. I couldn't use any of it. But we'd be in these meetings, and their IT director loved these marathon meetings. And when I say marathon meetings, like 30 people in this SAP team, I'd look at the billable hours in this meeting and I'd be going, I'd be like, did they realize how much this meeting is costing? And he loved to discuss every contingency, and my joke used to be, well, what if the data center, what if aliens abduct everybody else? Right? And he's like, I don't find that funny. I go, so I'd be in these meetings, and I was a consultant. I could stay there and bill all my time I want. And I'd suddenly get up and well, you guys contact me if you need something, I have some stuff to do, and I'd walk out. Now, I reported to this project manager, my friend Karen, and she's at Warner Brothers, and she does amazing stuff for them. And she understood, like, oh, he's getting all this stuff done. So, of course, the IT director would go to her, you gotta get him under control. And she goes, no, don't get him under control. Let him get stuff done. Because really, he's accomplishing something. I'll manage that. Right? She's like, you can't get up in the middle of the meeting and just leave. And I'm like, well, then I won't show up. I'm like, at all. Like, unless they need me directly, it's killing me. Right? So then I wrote how to run a 15-minute meeting, and I said, hey, this is how we should run meetings. 15-minute meeting. That's it. Right? Most meetings are not directed enough. That's all. And there's ways to run it. Like, if something goes back and forth 2 or 3 times, great. You are responsible for it. Report back via email in a week. You guys are now in charge of that. Like, delegate it. Like, get it off the committee, because the committee can't decide anything anyways. So give it to 2 people who seem passionate or have an interest or it touches them, and say, you guys talk and solve the problem. And tell us how you solve it. Right? Let people solve problems. Okay. Let's not talk about that. It's really interesting. All it really is, it comes down to time management. You should have your core time, that's production, it's non-speculative time, and explore time, that's meetings. That's when you sit down with the notepad. That's when right? And you should know what time is core time. Core time is delivery of products. And explore time is, let's have a meeting and let's talk about how we're going to solve this, right? Both are very valuable, but understand what they are, right? How many people have ever heard of the Pomodoro technique? Okay, and I believe in that, really. And now I do intense, so Pomodoro technique is this. 30 minutes of intense focus, then give yourself 10 to 15 minutes of non-focus. Get up, walk around, do something different, change the scenery, then come back in and do 30 minutes of intense focus again. Now I was raised by my father, God bless him, passed away last year. He was extremely arrogant. I was raised by Dirty Harry, I kid you not, like 44 mag, the whole 9 yards, right? And he sounded like him, looked like him, terrifying like him. He never got yelled. It's like, you ought to listen to your mother. Okay? All right? But he said, what you have to understand is most people take 8 hours to do 3 hours of work. Right? And part of this is because you become less productive when your brain's less productive. Maybe it's the end of the day, whatever. And you're better off, rather than fighting that, getting up and going, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes of not... Now, some bosses have to understand this. If they do, if higher-ups understood this, they'd give you the freedom to go out. They're walking around the, going outside, taking a little walk. They come back, and you can intensely focus. It's like you trick your brain to starting over, right? So I do that from writing, I do that from almost anything I do. If I get up, and if I don't always do it, sometimes you get so engrossed in the project, you think you can't walk away because you have to deliver, and the worst thing you can do is just stay there and try and deliver. One of the best things you can do is just walk away. Give yourself 15 minutes of shuffling, I don't care what you do. Then come back to it and you'll solve the problem. Who's done programming before? I call it like the invisible comma. You get the same error, and you just keep recompiling the code because you can't fix it. So bang, same error, you're like, what is going on? And then you walk away from it. And you look at it 20 minutes later and you're like, oh, it was right there the whole time. That's because your brain is so busy focused on that thing that it can't see the mistake, right? Okay, that's all that is. All right, this is what Glip looks like. This is our team collaboration project, okay? So I invite people to the project. You've got people and demos on you've got teams on the left-hand side. It's hard to read, but I want to just kind of see some concepts. I'm going to take you through a couple key things. So you have these projects. It's team discussions, okay? Now, in those team discussions, you can invite people to it. You can send emails if they're part of the team. It shows you your members of your team. I think I have my dog as a member of the team up there. And then you can do things like drag and drop images right into the project. Okay? I just drag it right in. Now everybody that's on the project can see it. I can click on the image and do a discussion right inside the image, or document, or note. We can have a discussion about a specific area in that image. Okay? Now that's what it looks like when I look at it. I'm going, oh, okay, there's a note in this image, right? So we can say, okay, do this and whatever. We're talking about this image for social. We can create a task about that image. Hey, update this, clarify it, give us whatever it is, and assign it to somebody on the team. Give them some other details, add enlightenment, misspelled to the image. Okay? Now what it shows them is, here's in the regular discussion, we see the image, but you also see up there that all those discussions, they're tied to the image. You see the image in green, it's a link. It lets you know that that piece of the discussion is connected to this other entity in the project. Okay? So I can create a task, create events, create links that show up over there, create notes, and I can just drag and drop any file I want in there. Word documents, Google documents,
PDFs, JPEG.
PDF, yeah, any document you're working on.
Excel spreadsheets.
Okay, so I got rid of a bunch of the Glip things because we're going to show you that briefly. Okay, so that's what Glip looks like. All right, I recommend you check it out. It doesn't take that long to learn. Okay, one of the things you're going to have to get used to in this day and age is technology changes fast. We can't do the 5-year adoption of new technology. You have to adopt tools more agilely, and you can. Really, here's the only challenge people have, and really it starts occurring about age 40. Now I fight this. I don't really have a fear of this, but I call it the fear of the click. Right? Because we watch our kids take new technology and they know, oh, it makes sense. They click in here, oh, the menu's here, it makes sense. Well, why does it make sense? It doesn't make sense because it necessarily makes sense. It makes sense because as soon as they get an app, they start clicking. They're just clicking on stuff. Right? So I'm working with my mom on learning her smartphone. Okay? So we do training, very painful training every... This is why I'm like, okay, what crimes did I commit that have caused... No, I love my mom, I love her. But I'll sit there and going, okay, I'm showing the same thing, how to do a text message. I'll say, just tap that. And she's like, press. And then if you press an icon, you're not activating it. Now you're like moving it. I'm like, no! And she's like, why'd that happen? And so... But they just click on stuff, right? They just start tapping away. And they learn, okay, that makes sense. Right? It makes sense to them. Or they make it make sense. They just adopt new technology. So we adopt new technologies and as needed use them as tools. Because can you imagine a new tool that helps your team communicate? You're like, well, we got to take the next 5 years to test it out. In this day and age, 3 new tools have been developed that you should be using already. Okay? And so people will say all the time, what do I do? Like, oh, it says do this. Should I click that? And I say, I don't know, try it. This is going to be exciting. Right? It says, do you want to add this program to your computer? Do I click next? Like, well, what are we doing here? Well, we're adding this program to my computer. I go, all right, is this a trick question? Are you messing with my brain? Because it seems like it's asking you if you want to do what you want to do. Like, it's like, do you want to go to the park? Yes. Then click go to the park. Like, that makes sense. Okay, so that's fear of the click stops people from learning these new technologies, right? All right, Google Drive. Here's what it looks like. Now, here's the big drawback to Google Drive and why it's not ready for the enterprise. You can't create security groups and apply securities to an item with groups. And that's a huge lack, and I don't know why Google hasn't done that. It just, even in Google applications for companies, I can't group people and apply them to a document or group of documents. That's crazy. I don't know why Google doesn't have that.
I guess using your own personal Google Drive accounts, or?
I'm using, for our company right now, because I used to have this on Google for domains, but there were some things I didn't like. And because we share with our clients all these drives, we actually are just using our Gmail accounts for my team, okay? It's more to manage, but for our purposes, it works fine, right? I also have a client. We do social media for our client, Brilliant Baby Products. They have Google Apps for domains under their environment. We do it for everybody that's in the domain. So it works in both capacities. And there are some add-on products for Google that are nice that work only in the Google for Domains space, the Google for Business space, right? So we don't use some of those, okay? The reason Google's really critical, though, is this whole idea of it being mobile. We live in a mobile world. I can upload images and get to them and share them directly from my phone with people on my team and move them into folders. It's an extraordinarily powerful technology. So I'm going to show you something that I just did the other day. And because we have access to it, I hope you don't mind or will indulge me here. I'm going to pop us out of our presentation because this is a really, it's just a very powerful way to use this product. So if you aren't on Google Drive, but you have a Gmail account, you click the little menu icon up here, you find Google Drive, you can drag and drop these. I put Drive to the top. So now, you have this drive and you have things shared with you. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. I'm going to go into here, which is where I put files. Okay. So, I'm going to create a new document in Google. We're going to call it PMI. So how many people use speech to text in Microsoft Office? You ever use speech to text? I wrote almost my whole book using speech to text. I really like it. But I was struggling because they don't have a good speech to text client in Google. And you can't use the Windows 7 speech to text client in Gmail. And so, or in Google. And so I was adding some Chrome plugins that did speech to text and they were awful. And then I was like, you know what? I've already done this before. My phone, our phones have I have a Samsung S5. The speech to text is really remarkable. I mean, there's times it gets wonky, but really for the most part it works pretty well. So there's a Google Documents application. Already the PMI documents here. It's in my Google Docs. I just created it. So I'm going to go into it. All right. So I'm here at PMI. We're testing this text-to-speech mechanism. Period. New line. How does it work? Question mark. Seems to work pretty well. All right. So that's kind of cool, right? Because I use it for note-taking now, but I'm doing a podcast, right? I'm reinitiating my podcast for my IT Director Toolkit site, but we're also creating a podcast called Throw Away the Box, and it's related more to my music and creative endeavors. And I was like, I want to be able to write this in my spare time when I'm out running around. Then I can just sit there and just narrate it right into a Google document, get home, clean it up, and then record it, right? But for project communication, same thing's true. Oh, I'm making notes. I'm remembering something while I'm out and about. Boom, boom, boom. Make notes right in a document that's shared with some people on the team. Clean that up. Now, you don't want to make the mistake. You can make some mistakes. It will pick up everything you say. So, like when the dog comes in and, urinates on the couch and you say, hey, then they, suddenly it's in the document like a race. I was actually sending a voice text message to somebody because I was driving. I was like, and right then a truck crossed the lane in front of me and hit the car right to the right of me. Just bam, and they crashed. And I said, what the blink is going on here? And that's the message that went to this guy. So I was like, I'll be there in 45 minutes. What the blank is going on here? Right? I'm not proud that that's what you received. But either way, that's an amazing collaborative technology. Because I can share this with Judy or anybody on my team. They could go in and they could be editing, cleaning that up, doing something with it, taking that information. Right? These are tools that are available now for free. How many people go look for software to collaborate with that cost thousands and thousands and weeks to implement? Yes?
But boot camp, would that fall into this as well? Boot camp, did you ever hear of that?
They can link to Google Documents, but what you can't do is live collaboration, right? That's 37 Signals product, right? Yeah? No, that's Basecamp. Basecamp?
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now, the thing is, I love 37 Signals. I think the best business book ever written, any business book you want to
Except
read,
for
is
yours.
Rework by the guys from 37 Signals. It's an amazing book. And so if you only buy one book this year, make sure you buy my book. But if you buy 2 books, you can buy Rework, right? Okay, no, it's an amazing book and great, and they're great. As a matter of fact, their whole mantra is very much about simplification. You read their idea about meetings. They're like, yeah, take every meeting you have and don't have it. And then you'll be way better off, right? Okay, any questions on what I covered so far? Does this seem to make sense or resonate with you? Do you see, right?
The last thing, especially what you just.
That's cool, right?
Yeah, because I want to tell my clients to speak something and then I'll make it into English. It's so much easier than having them write.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, if they can do that, yeah.
Actually, I think, go ahead. No, I think the most important thing you said was the very last thing you said, which was, it doesn't cost anything. Because anytime you present, can I use this software? Well, how much does it cost? No, you can't.
Well, and Glip does cost something, and Smartsheet costs something, pretty affordable, but and for what you get, well worth it in my opinion. But you have to show that value, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, your question.
You had mentioned something about finding the best meeting time for most suitable participants. Have you ever used a program called Doodle?
Doodle.
Yes. So that's like curating any of these options. They can log in and pick the best time. You can go back at some predetermined end date, figure out which best time is. That clears up any emails or communications you have
Right.
to worry about.
No, I'll have to check it out because that's a huge issue. Is making sure the communication just to get a meeting. It can be the most frustrating thing in the world. Where I'll sit there and I'll just say, if you guys just pick a time, I'll just bend my schedule to you because I'm so sick of like emails going back. Oh, is it good for you? Is it right? And I said, just tell me when it is, I'll show up. The most ubiquitous tool is a spreadsheet, right, for project management. Okay, not that I would ever have anything inappropriate in any document anywhere, but just in case somebody else had hacked my account or something. So it gives you a number of sheets you can set up as projects, and it's just spreadsheets, except that it has this one master column for whatever data you're keeping there that allows you to create hierarchy and indents, which allows you to create actually a Gantt chart view, calendar view. But here's what's critical about it. You can invite people to these projects, and you can create automated update requests or alerts. And the alerts are really cool because you can do something like, you can have a due date column and who it's assigned to, and an assigned to column. And you could say, notify this person the day after I assign it or the day I assign it, right? Or when it's assigned to them, which is really kind of the starting piece for them to be notified. And then you can set alerts that are automatic that say, notify them 3 days before the due date. Notify them 1 day before the due date. Notify them the day of the due date. Now I do that because I just want them to be nagged like crazy, but I'm on there too. And what's cool about that is, let's say you take something and you go into a calendar view, which is really cool, calendar view, and you take their task and you just drag it to a new date. It just starts the clock over again. You don't have to reset alerts. 3 days prior to that due date, boom, they get a notification. 1 day prior, boom, they get a notification. And they can go into that sheet. The other thing that's really cool about this is, I have here this podcast thing, I have a logo and graphic, and Judy's gonna do that, right? She'll do the graphic design, but let's say I was working with somebody who wasn't invited to the sheet. I can take a given row or multiple rows, and I can send an update request to somebody who's not authorized on the sheet. And they can only update the information on that row. They won't see anything else except that row. And their changes will be queued up and you have to authorize the changes. So it's all in the cloud. It's an amazing technology. Those are just some of the basic features of it, right? That's Smartsheet. So our team process is be on Glip during the day whenever you can so we can communicate. We do our bigger project pieces in Smartsheet, and then we share long-form documents with clients and with clients in Google Drive. That's our process, right? Any questions, I'm going to end, and then I'll do a quick little number for those who can stay and wish to indulge. Anybody know what SAP? They know what SAP, right? Know what it stands for? Sorry ass program, like, you know, because, you know, and so the two pieces of advice I learned from that is one, German engineering is not always the greatest thing in the world, and two, projects, if you have a long project that costs a lot of money, right? Milestones are too far off for the people empowered to see change, right? And you have to build artificial quick wins into your project. And this is one thing I tell people about big projects. Artificial quick wins are this. It's really not related to the project itself, but somehow you roll it in. So I'll give you a really simple one. We're at Sebastian Hair Care. We're doing this project that's costing them a ton of money, right? And this is the old project, like I go crazy watching these project teams develop because they get like 4 MBA students who were like wet around the ears and like still pooping on the carpets, they were puppies, and they'd come in and they'd put them in as junior consultants and they're billing out at like $140, $150 an hour, and then they're reporting to guys who are like maybe 8 months to a year and a half working on SAP, and they're kind of higher level consultants, I don't know what they're billing at it, and then there's their project lead that's probably billing $300 an hour, and then as soon as we trained the puppies and got them to stop pooping on the carpet, they take them and move them to some other project as that 6-month guy, and we get a brand new set of puppies. And I'm like, and so I actually wrote a document that said, hey, there's a problem with this project, it's gonna fail, here's why, this talent's leaving, and we have to, and I referred to them as puppies, and I wrote it to the CFO at Sebastian. They sued that SAP company. And 2 years later, I get subpoenaed to go to court because of this document I wrote, right? Where they want me to testify as an expert witness. And all I could think is, how am I going to explain the use of the word puppies and pooping on the carpet? It's very condescending, you know? I mean, I was kind of looking forward to it in one sense. I was like, this is going to be really funny. But needless to say, so quick wins are unrelated pieces of project. So what we did, for instance, you were doing a project, and they had the need to have this corporate phone book, and they put out this corporate phone book in manual form in early days of like pre-ASP internet, you know, Microsoft products, and we created a access database with a phone list that could be updated via, they were called, I think, HTC files. It was a very kludgy way of getting, but it was a full-featured departmental phone list that could be updated by HR that was an intranet, and we introduced it as a company intranet. And I'm going to tell you, me and Karen, the aforementioned Karen that worked on that project, we built it in about 4 hours after lunch one day. We said, we need something to show them. They talked about it like for a month and a half, like, you know, boom. And I said, do you realize I just bought you guys like $1 million in consulting fees, right, to work on the real project and try and get things moved from this Primos mainframe to an AS400, right? Like, that's what I bought you with this 4 hours of frantic programming of a phone book. And all I'm saying is, there's quick hits like that. If you're doing a long project, find those quick hits. Find somebody who will team up with you and give them something tangible as a tool or information they can use today. We overcomplicate the number of tools we need when we think the coolest thing in the world is that Matt could dictate to a Google document. Wasn't the most complicated thing in the world. If we can introduce a very simple tool that makes somebody in management's life easier, you just bought yourself 4 weeks of the work that doesn't show up, right? So find those quick hits. Anyways, any other questions? Does that resonate with you? Like you understand it?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.